Welcome to the Financial Pathway Podcast. We're here to help you go to the next level in your finances with practical advice from speaker and financial planner Nate Skelly.
Okay, Luke, we are back. Last week we were talking about Calendly, and it's a tool both you and I use, and it's great. Let's move on now to what's the next one you've got for us? Time saving tools.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like I said, they're not necessarily in any particular order. So the next one I'll mention again, it's like I feel like I've talked about it so many times, but it's that good, is Loom. Loom, there's also some alternatives. Like I've also used I have Dropbox, which I could talk about Dropbox in and of itself. It's great for file storage, but Dropbox has something called Dropbox Capture that's very similar. I've tried to tell myself like, hey, like I shouldn't be, because I'm paying for Dropbox and it just includes Capture as part of, what it does. But Loom, the ease of use is so good. So let's talk about what Loom is. Loom is a screen recording tool that you install onto your computer, or you can install it into your Chrome browser, I believe, as well. And then you simply, if you have something that you need to show somebody on your screen, you walk through and it just records your screen and your clicks and everything. So in my world, it's a game changer because, if I'm working with designs, for example, not only can I communicate, to the client can communicate to me. So whenever I deliver a design to somebody, I always I just have a template that says, hey, your deliverables are here. Feel free to reply with any feedback you may have. We highly recommend using a tool like loom.com to record your screen and share your feedback. So then if somebody says, oh yeah, if you've ever tried to do design visual feedback just in a written email, it can just be incredibly confusing. So if they can record their screen and they can show, okay, hey, yeah, right here, this part of the logo I like, but the font's kind of off. I kind of want to see this moved over here. Doing that visual on a screen is it is, talk about efficiency. It just really streamlines things. So that for Loom and just the concept of the screen recording approach in general, I even think if you have a Mac, you can do it. They have a built-in screen easy for me to say, screen capture tool. Yeah.
Sorry, Luke, we'll bleep that out.
Yeah. I'm dropping the C-bomb over here. It's bad. But you've got that tool that you can use to capture your screen, and then you can, share that. And the nice thing about Loom though, is that it's recording your screen, but it's simultaneously uploading it to Loom servers. Loom also now has a lot of AI tools built in. So it'll automatically, based on what you said, it transcribes the video, automatically generates a title, a video description. It can automatically summarize the transcript into like talking points. So Loom has been really, really powerful, and I've really enjoyed that one. So that'll be my
you were the
second
one
mention.
you were the one that helped me with that, because you recorded something over Loom and I was so excited about it. I was like, oh, this is great. What is this? And I've used it in my own business. If somebody wants to say, hey, where do I go to access my monthly statements? Or, hey, let me show you a comparison of like different mortgage options side by side. I can just record that, send that to a client. Not only do they get to see exactly what I'm seeing, but then they get to watch it on their own time. Doesn't necessarily, for things that don't necessarily require a whole meeting or a Zoom meeting, and then they could watch it back if they're, they're like, oh, I want to see that part again, and it's good for future reference. I recently hired Candace as my assistant with Financial Pathway, and that's been hugely beneficial. But there's a lot of things, because she's working virtually. Hey, let me show you how I go in and do this and record a Loom video and send that. And similarly, not only is it better for explanation, but it's better for future reference as well. So that's hugely, hugely beneficial. +1 on Loom.
Yeah, Loom is great. Yeah, it like you mentioned, that's another thing, is documenting your processes and things like that. We talked about building systems earlier. That's something that really helps in that, because people, when they think of, oh man, I got to document this workflow or this process, it seems really daunting, because you're like, okay, I got to like get out a Word document and like step 1, this, step 2. No, you gotta just record your screen with something like Loom. here's how you do it. And then, like I said, Loom takes it from there. I'm also going to piggyback another tool off of Loom that's similar, but different, and I found to be better. And this one is called Scribe. So Scribe is it works. For Loom, there's a paid version. I actually do use the paid version. Scribe, I found the free version is sufficient. You just have to. Its limitation in the free version is it only works in the Chrome browser, but Scribe is really good because it's similar to Loom, but it actually captures your screen step by step. So, for example, it's perfect for something like when I'm walking through like I was walking through showing somebody how to update something on a website the other day, and it just was like, oh, I click here, and then or Scribe rather in real time is saying, okay, here, and it's showing the screenshot, and then it's using kind of AI to detect what you did and whatever, and then afterwards you can edit those steps and send those out. So for me, what I like it for is when I have something that is a little more of a concrete process that I want to document and show somebody how to do it, where it's like these are repeatable steps. I've found that to be really useful. And the other thing is because it's not capturing a video, it's actually just capturing your screen out based on like where you're clicking. You don't have to be talking and narrating the video. You can just kind of quietly, like when I'm sitting at Starbucks, it does feel weird for me to like record a Loom sometimes, but when I'm doing a Scribe, it doesn't matter because I'm not talking. So Scribe, I think it's scribe.io is the web address for that.
Awesome.
That's another one very similar to Loom, but it's also got a really unique application.
That's great. So Calendly, Loom, Scribe. What else? Any other tools that you'd say good, like time saving efficiency tools?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Dropbox earlier, and I know Dropbox, their MO is cloud storage, which to me is the best for cloud storage out there. I've tried a lot of them over the years. Dropbox though has a lot more features now. I use Dropbox almost daily to transfer large files. They have something called Dropbox Transfer, which is a little different than their actual like file folder storage system.
Mhm.
So you can, like, if it's on your Mac, you right click, you go share with transfer, and it uploads it as like a temporary link. You can set like an expiration date, things like that. You can password protect it if that seems necessary, and send that out. So I really like that. Another thing though is Dropbox AI features is really good. So
Mm.
talk about the podcast recording. When I record a podcast for somebody, I take the video and I will upload it to Dropbox because that's just where I store my files. Well, once it's uploaded and I go and I view that file in the browser on Dropbox's platform, there's a Dropbox AI feature where if I click that, it will, in this case it's a video, so it's got it's generated a transcription of the video, and I kind of like I would in like a chat GPT, I can ask, hey, what would be a good title for this episode, and it
Mhm.
generates a title. Or what's a good description, it generates a description. I was actually surprised it was this effective. I did a podcast episode the other day, where we were talking through our favorite books and podcasts for the year. And I just asked the question, what are the podcasts mentioned in this episode? And actually did a really good job of like identifying those and listing those out.
Wow.
So I've really liked that feature of Dropbox that they've added there. Of course, everybody is experimenting with AI right now, and I've really enjoyed that because it's now Dropbox. It's like it's not just storing your files; it's actually intelligently helping you, like I said, extract data from them and things like that. So
Yeah,
I'm giving a Dropbox a shout out because of those features.
that's great. Um, Similarly, so there's a lot of great tools for like productivity, but what about like for avoiding distractions and being able to
Mm.
focus in? I know do not disturb is a great feature for the
Yeah.
iPhone. Anything that you found to be helpful, whether it's just avoiding checking your email all the time or messages or just things that help you to focus and eliminate distractions?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do not disturb seems really obvious, but I'm surprised at how many people still don't use it or realize that it exists. because do not disturb has become so much more than just simply, muting some notifications. A few years ago, Apple actually renamed it to focus modes. And so
Mm.
now you can have different do not disturb and focus modes depending on what's going on. So I have one for work, I have one for home, I have one for recording, which actually I kind of forgot to activate. So I'm gonna go do that right now. But I have one for recording that actually, whenever I activate that, well, it just like it's another level. Like nothing can get through. Whereas on like work mode or whatever, like I have some people that can still get through to me. So that's again, I know that there's probably more. We're looking for a little more innovative solutions, but I just want to. I like to always point out to people that it really does a lot. If you have an iPhone, Mac, iPad, Apple Watch, it all syncs over. And so, like for example, this morning I was doing some deep work, and I kind of took a break, and then went over to my messages, and I had like 5 or 6 messages from 3 or 4 different people that had come in during that time. Well, I had no idea. And I was very grateful for Do Not Disturb, because I was like, oh, wow, that would have been a huge distraction had I stopped to, reply to these messages.
Right.
Do Not Disturb gets that mention because there's a lot of folks that don't realize all that it does, and that it can really just shut down distraction in a really big way. There's an extension of Do Not Disturb and focus modes called, I've not personally used it. I've heard it recommended, called Opal.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I've not.
yeah, it taps into the focus modes of iPhone and just really enhances it. So I'm not the guy to really give you the full spiel on it, but I've heard a lot of people recommend it. It's kind of like being able to take the features of Do Not Disturb on that are built in and just
Yeah.
take them to the next level. So that's one that if you're really looking to go super all in on the distraction free, consider something like Opal.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us are working in jobs where we have the capacity to say, hey, there's some things that I'm going to take on my plate, and there's some things that I may pass off to somebody else, whether it's a manager, whether it's a team approach. In your case, you have an assistant. Um, Talk us through, what have you found to be helpful as far as filtering the things that you delegate versus the things that you tackle for yourself, and maybe some ways that people, because obviously not everybody's in a situation where it's like, oh, I run a business by myself and I have an assistant, so that might be a very specific, but just
Yeah.
as you as a business owner, how do you think through a method for deciding what to delegate and what not to delegate?
Yeah, so I'll do a quick callback to when we were talking about systems.
Yeah.
It can be really challenging to delegate if you don't have a good system. Because there's this balance, right, in I guess leadership between um, you know, uh, empowering people to do what you hired them to do, but then also to maintain the standard of quality that you established, right? Like you're the business, as far as like, and you started it, and so the reason people are paying you and your company is because of you and the way that you do it. So you have to maintain that, and like I said, I won't dive into the details, but there was a time where I had a couple of full-time employees. The reason that didn't work out in the long run, one of the many reasons, was that I did not do a good job of having systems and processes in place and then saying, okay, here's that system and process. I want you to own that. I want you to follow that. I want you to improve that. But this is the I just kind of said, oh, cool. You do design and you do the video and blah. And, and then things were honestly kind of a mess. So that's why I'm reemphasizing that is you got to have a system and a process to show someone. Not obviously to do simple stuff. No, because here's the type of a lot of the simple stuff that my assistant does for me is, hey, I need you to call over and figure this out for me. Make this phone call to this person. This is not someone that I need to take time to meet with. A lot of times, this is something like, honestly, a lot of times it's dealing with I guess we call them vendors. Yeah, like we need to get them paid. So just call there, figure out what we need to do to pay them. thank you, and that's it on that. My assistant does all my invoicing for me. So if I need to send an invoice, she's the one. There's once a month, and again, that's a system that I put in place that she follows. She goes in, she logs in my invoicing system, creates the invoices, gets them ready to go, and then shares them with me so I can kind of take a look and then send them off. So she does the invoicing for me. She handles everything taxes for me in terms of making sure that each year I hit all my deadlines, pay all the quarterly, estimates, actually get a CPA, hired so that they can file my taxes for me. And anything with appointments, like I said, even personal appointments, like scheduling dentist appointments, doctor's appointments, even certain things like car, hey, something's up with my car, or I need new tires, can you call around and find the best deal, and just schedule an appointment with the shop or whatever. So all kinds of things, research on certain things. Hey, I've been looking into this software or this platform, can you take a look and see what you think about it, and the stuff. So I just kind of rattled off a bunch of stuff there, but there are the simple things like, hey, make a phone call. Obviously that there's no need for that system, but for the more advanced stuff, like I said, something like invoicing or anything that obviously deals with financials or client management, like, yeah, you need to have a system in place to show them. And that's been kind of my ongoing, kind of one of the ongoing tasks for me is, okay, I got to take what I do that I've not yet delegated, and I've got to get that system good enough to where I can delegate it off to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything, like we've talked about a lot of different tools, and is there anything that's kind of on your radar right now? Maybe something new or something that you're excited about, that like maybe it's not a proven tool for you, but something that you see a lot of potential for in the future, either personally or for business?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the obligatory place where you have to talk about AI. We kind of alluded to it earlier. How Dropbox, Loom, a couple of these are taking advantage, or almost every major, at least tech platform, is taking advantage of AI and starting to tap into it. And it's fascinating, and it is something that I have really leaned into the past year, or well, I guess 2 years. That's kind of become a little more prevalent. So I guess I don't know if it's oh, here's a specific AI tool, as much as just I have really been fascinated at how I can use it,
Mhm.
and how I can tap into it. So Nate, like before we hopped on here, you were like, oh, hey, I need to come up with you had to, for the Money Wise episodes that I think dropped right before ours here.
Yep.
You were like, hey, I need to come up with a quick intro for that. So sorry to give away the secret sauce, but you typed something in the chat GPT and it gave you, hey,
Yep.
here's an idea of what you could say. And you made it your own. And I will say
Yep.
that always make it your own. But
Yeah.
chat GPT or a large language model or whatever they call it like that is really great for saying, hey, here's what I need. And then
Yeah.
they
Give me
spit
a
it out to you.
skeleton. Give me a
It,
structure. Yeah.
they give you a rough
Nothing
draft,
impossible. Yep.
Yeah. Another thing that chat GPT in particular has been really great for is aggregating data, analyzing and aggregating data. So for example, like I had this I had to calculate a cost for something, and I had just kind of a big just on the portal that I'd purchased it through, kind of just a big online invoice that I needed to comb through and figure out, okay, what do these numbers add up to, and whatnot. So I just copied and pasted that, and when I pasted it in the chat GPT, it's kind of a mess. It's like numbers here but descriptions here and line items here. But I just said, hey, I need you to extract the totals here and give me a grand total. And so
Yep.
it did that very efficiently. I've had it build kind of do that similarly, but build out things, because it'll give you results in a spreadsheet format. So it'll be like, hey, here's the columns, here's the rows for certain types of things, as far as I'm trying to think of a specific way I used that the other day, but it's like I do it all the time now. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm just, hey, here, give me a spreadsheet that looks like
Yeah.
this, or that uses this data. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there. Nate, we were on a phone call a few months ago or a few weeks ago. I can't remember, but we were talking about something, and Apple had just pushed the update with their Apple Intelligence to the phone.
Yeah.
And now they have a feature where you can record the call and it summarizes it for you. So say, hey, Nate, I'm going
Yeah.
to try this,
I was just
And
on a
so I
call
did.
yesterday, and the guy did that because he's like, "Is that okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." But yeah,
Yeah. But I've not used it much, but that time it worked really well. I was really pleased with how it turned out. So yeah, there's all kinds of applications of it that we could talk about. But here's my biggest challenge is it can save you. People are like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs and everything. Not necessarily. It's just going to make you more efficient at yours.
right.
So yeah, in theory, does that mean that but it's kind of like the same thing as, like, I guess you could say, what people do before the ability to make a phone call. Well, I guess they just sent a telegram, or they sent things by before email. They sent things by mail. Well, what did that do? Okay, it may have eliminated some of the postal service workers. I don't know, but now it makes what you do much more valuable.
Yeah,
So
it was a net benefit
yeah,
for sure.
you're yeah, so you can be in theory now you can do more because of AI, and so you're worth more.
Right.
So that's, to me, it's like, don't be afraid of it. Figure out how to use it, because it's certainly something. I think the church is always really guilty of being like late to the game, because they want to. A lot of churches want to find something really really wicked and evil about new technology. I remember that was what happened with social media. But then, a decade later, you're like, oh, I have to use this,
Right.
or I'm irrelevant. So I would
Right.
just challenge people, like conservatives and Christians tend to be really hesitant to adopt new technology. No, I would say don't be hesitant, don't be afraid. Just learn how you can use it, because somebody's going to figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
Um, you know. So might as well be the good folks.
Yeah, I feel like, in the same way that our generation was the first one that really grew up symbiotically with the internet and with social media and its inception, and we've just learned that's just been part of our lives. We're just so integrated into utilizing
Mhm.
those things. Similarly, Gen Z, I saw a statistic the other day about how many Gen Z workers use AI or use like Chat GPT, and it's like something like 92%. Like, it's an insane number because it just it's very intuitive for them. Why would I not
Yeah.
use this amazing tool that just it's the same way that we approach Google. We Google stuff, AI, and I think
Mhm.
that's just going to be part of just part of how we interact with the world. In the same way that we're
Yeah.
just so used to typing stuff into Google to a search engine and looking for results, AI will take a similar role, but allow us to go even further with it. Here, and this has been great. I think my three big takeaways listening to everything that you've been talking about is, first of all, the importance of time blocking and making sure that you set aside time for the most important stuff and don't allow the tedious things to bleed over into that working on the business, not just in the business. Also, secondly, systematizing your processes and using
Mhm.
tools to do that as you work. I think, well, not I think, I know for me, I don't like to get into the weeds on little details. I just find it just so boring, and I just try to avoid it at all costs. But building systems is really just documenting the things that you're already doing. And there's
Mhm.
great ways now, easier ways than ever, to be able to do that through Loom, through Scribes, through some of these great tools, and the importance of doing that. But then thirdly, I think it just speaks to this what we've just been talking about these last few minutes, is stay adaptable. Don't get so stuck and ironclad in one way of doing things that you're giving up on future productivity, future efficiency. So many great tools, and the pace is so rapid. But kind of keep your ear to the ground and be aware. And that's why I'm so glad to have you on the podcast, to talk about some of these things. Because if you'll stay a little bit adaptable, you'll stay
Yeah.
moldable. There's some great ways to do things even better than than was ever possible. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up, Luke, please tell our listeners about Must Increase, and specifically about podcast production, because that's something that you've really you're focusing a lot more of your effort and attention on.
Yeah. Well, again, you can, well, I guess the simplest thing to do would be to probably just shoot me an email, luke@mustincrease.com. If for any reason you want to get in touch with me. From there, I can send you my Calendly link and we can schedule a call. And we can kind of talk a little bit more about how I could help you in particular. So that's just probably the best course of action right now if you're interested in the podcast production, or like I said, I still do offer the other services. It's not like I've discontinued the graphic design or websites or anything like that. But yeah, the podcast is in particular what I'm looking to do. And I would say, my pitch is, like I said, the podcasting is huge right now. Whether you are a pastor, or a business owner, or just somebody who, I always just say, because people are like, oh, why start another podcast? There's a bunch out there. You're right, there are a bunch, but podcasting is a great starting point if you're looking to share content that you believe is going to be helpful and valuable to others. It's much more simple than trying to blog or come up with clever TikToks. Sitting down and talking, having a little bit more of a long form conversation is a great starting point to share what you know and what you have to share with others. So that would be my challenge, regardless. And even if you can't afford to, pay somebody to do your podcast, that's great. I'd love to talk to you and I can show you how to get started on your own. So yeah, again, luke@mustincrease.com. That's my email address. I'd love to hear from you and help you out in any way I can.
Yeah, awesome. Luke's been a big help to me, and I hope he can be a big help to some other of the listeners. So thanks again, Luke, for being on the podcast today, and we will see you all on the next episode.